Okay, everybody, welcome to Ghostly Stories. This is brought to you by Half Past Dead Paranormal Radio. I'm your host, Roger Belt, and I have a terrific lady here with me tonight. I had the pleasure of interviewing Miss Haunted Salem there on a previous show. She's awesome, lots of information. And when we get through with the story here, we're going to talk about things related to this, and I'm going to tell you my side of what happened to me, which is quite the opposite of this story, but yet it fits with this story because of the way it worked out. So, without further ado, let's jump in here. Now, this is a story in this guy's name here. Wait a minute, I had his name up here. I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this right, but this story is from. They go by Snarky Chew. Anyway, so when I was a kid, I would race up to the top of the stairs as fast as I could, like it was some sort of silly game. Well, I must have been 5 or 6 at the time, I'm not sure, but I know I was very little. Somewhere along the way, a voice at the top of the stairs started to whisper to me. It would make bets with me, such as, I bet you a penny you can't make it to the top of the stairs. I don't really think there was a certain amount of time or anything. As I said, I was very little, so I probably didn't have any counting abilities anyway. I recall just sitting at the top of the stairs having conversations with this voice about the betting, of course. Eventually, the voice, it was like a whisper of a man's voice, not my own voice, in my head, started to bet me my life instead of pennies. It would say, I bet you your life you can't make it up the stairs. As I got older, it stopped. I never really thought about it at all. I never mentioned it to anyone until one night I was sleeping over at my brother's place. I was about 18, he was 22, and we were talking about spooky stories. Out of nowhere, I brought up the voice at the top of the stairs, and my brother got all quiet and weird. Before I even mentioned betting, the betting aspect, he said, did it make bets with you? We both looked at each other horrified. It certainly was freaky after the fact. A lot I ain't going to say this, a lot of stuff went down in my family at that period of time in my life, and my mother, a heavily religious lady, said there was a lot of evil in our lives at that time. I don't at all think our place was haunted, by the way. It was built in the late 70s, and as I got older, I never experienced anything like that again. Okay, now, several things come to question here. Um, the fact that his brother, I guess, experienced the same thing. Neither one of them, I guess, had ever mentioned it to each other or anybody else. So, like, years later, they find out, that they had experienced the same thing. That's where my story comes in. I was about 8 or 9, I guess, and my youngest sister, they were twins. Well, one of them was born uh, with her head too large for her body. She never crawled, she never walked. She was 4 years old when she passed. Her and I kind of had a special bond because I played with her. I could make her smile and stuff, and all, where other people just didn't, really pay much attention to her because she was just there. And after she passed for 2 weeks straight, I heard her cry every night. And I thought I was the only one. And for years, I never knew this. And one day, my younger brother happened to be here, and we were just talking about experiences and stuff back then, all kinds of, and all of a sudden he just out of nowhere says, "You know, for 2 weeks after Judy passed, I heard her cry every night." And I'm like, "Holy crap!" All these years I thought I was the only one that heard this. So that's where, as I was saying, my story is similar, but yet on the other side of the fence, I guess. Now this
Yep.
one is creepy. You think about it. If you have a voice but you can't see anything, but just this voice telling you, and it starts out like, it's like fun and games. I bet you a penny you can't make it up here. No big deal, and you don't think nothing about it. Yeah, all right. Then all of a sudden it's, I bet you your life you can't make it up here. That's like, wow, where do I go now? Who do I tell, or do I tell anybody? They wouldn't believe me. They think I was nuts. So what do you think about that?
Well, the bet. Hi, this is Jim. James. The bet in itself brings something to mind. Wow. I'm not really sure where to go with it. The bet itself is bringing in, making you or asking you to cross the line somewhere.
Right. Well, it's trying to get you to do what it wants, but it's not like, it kind of slips into it in an easy sort of way so that you're not afraid of it.
Yeah, it's intelligent.
Yes, there you go.
Good analogy. Intelligence, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. It wants you to be able to trust it and listen to it, and it's like a con man. It wants to con you.
Yes.
Good
It tries
analogy.
to ease you into something so that as it changes, you don't really think about it until, bam, you're there.
Hmm.
And then you don't know what to do. I'm assuming in this case, um, he
Excuse
probably didn't make two more runs up the stairs after that. I wouldn't think.
me.
Just saying, but
Well, just knowing me, I'd do it a few times just because I might have had a headache the first time and had to try it again. But I was just one of those kids. But
right. Well, now at 5 or 6 years old, you got to wonder, is this my brain playing tricks on me, or am I really experiencing something supernatural? And you're at that age, you're not going to think, "Oh wow, there's a ghost talking to me." So what are you going to say it is?
as
oh
far as
yeah, go ahead, Christine.
I was gonna say, as far as what the evil, the spirit is,
Yeah,
or what's going on. Because at 5 or 6 years old, you're so open-minded and you don't know any better. That's why they're so in tune to the other side.
exactly.
Good point.
Okay.
Yeah, it's usually about 12 to 14 they lose that. It's either they lose it or they keep it for the rest of their lives. But, it could be, a spirit just causing mischief, wanting to play. It knows that, it's a young child, therefore it can manipulate a lot.
Children are definitely more in tune at a young age, more open-minded, so they'll hear things, they're accepting things, and able to
Exactly.
be in touch much more than us adults are, who have things that make us shut things off or put blinders on and
Yeah.
not hear and see what's going on around us. Um, the stories that I was going to talk about that I mentioned earlier to Roger before we went on broadcast are about my daughter, who when she was at a very young age, and things that I watched her experience. And so yeah, children are definitely more in tune to the spiritual world because they haven't been oppressed.
Right. And see, that's the thing. When you're young like that, your imagination is wide open. So, and another thing I think is the way this thing did is it chose not to show itself. All he was hearing was the voice, the whisper. Now, had it shown itself, he'd have probably freaked out and like, oh heck no, I ain't gonna, no, we ain't going there, Ma, But by not showing itself and just whispering in his ear and doing it the way that it did, it kind of lured him in, like sucked him into it.
But my daughter had full visualizations, and she would actually describe the person to me that she was looking at and listening to at the time, this sort of thing. And that was kind of freaky to me. And some of the things that were foretold actually came true. And she was too young to even know what they were at the time. So that was a real eye-opener to me.
Christina, what was your, and this is kind of offbeat from the story thing here, but what was your eye opener? What was it that made you realize that there's stuff out there we just don't understand?
Well, it started for me at a young age.
Okay.
When my grandfather passed away and my mother had visualizations and visitations from my grandfather.
The sound here.
But
Can you hear me?
I hear you, Christina. Are you there?
She's talking, but I'm not hearing her.
Yeah, I see that. Same here.
Okay, we both lost your sound there. We're not hearing you. Did you mute your mic or something? Okay, we can't hear you. If you want to, try logging out, logging back in, see if it comes back. Anyway, hopefully
would you like me to continue, or should we wait
until
go ahead.
Hopefully she'll get straightened out here in a minute.
Okay. Well, I'll give the first story. My daughter was like 4 years old, sitting on my lap in the living room as we were watching TV, and she just kept staring into the corner. And I kept asking her, I asked her, what are you staring at? She said, well, that man. I said, what man? Well, the man in the corner. And I said, well, describe him to me. So she described exactly what he looked like to her, this and that. I said, well, is he a nice man? I said, oh, yeah, he's very friendly. He says he's watching over me. Now that was my first eye opener right there, because she's like 4 years old, and she's describing this. Well, about a year and a half later, my mother passed away, and it was her grandmother. And about 4 o'clock in the morning, I wake up, and my daughter is sitting up in her bed in her bedroom, talking. And I got up and walked in. Who are you talking to? Are you okay? Are you awake, or are you asleep, having a dream, or what? She said, well, I'm awake. I'm talking to Grandma.
No.
And
are you back?
Yeah,
hi, Christina. Welcome back.
Oh, okay.
I hear you now.
Good. Okay.
Okay. All right. Good. Glad to be back.
Well, welcome back.
Thank you.
Go ahead, James.
Okay, so the story with my daughter is sitting up, and she was about 5 years old then, sitting up in her bed at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I walk in, and she's talking to someone. And I asked her, who are you talking to? And she says, well, I'm talking to Grandma. I said, oh, okay. What's Grandma have to say? She says, well, she says she's okay. She's in a happy place. She says, I'm going to get a trophy. What's a trophy, Dad? She was young, so young she didn't even know what a trophy was. I said, oh, Grandma said you're going to get a trophy. Okay. Well, about 2 months later, my daughter joined a little kids bowling league thing, and she got her trophy.
Wow.
And that just blew me away.
That's awesome.
Because, and she said, well, I got it. I got it. Grandma told me I would. She was holding her trophy up. And it's like, okay, I'm convinced.
That is so cool. Christina, I asked you earlier, and
Yes.
apparently we couldn't hear you. What
Okay.
was the thing at your youngest age you can remember that opened your eyes, I guess, to
Well,
things like this?
first I can relate to James because my son, at a young age, was also seeing things in the house and going through same experiences. But as far as me, I used to have experiences when I was in Salem, um, and I would wake up every morning and my comforter would be all the way across my room. I'd have to actually get up and walk all the way. There were big rooms, and I'd have to go all the way, across and grab it every morning. I'd wake up with no blanket. It'd be all the way across the room. And I remember laying down and not being able to move. And I was awake, but I couldn't move. And I saw a silhouette from a lying down position come up and shut my alarm clock off, and then come back and disappear back in my bed, and then I was able to move. So I mean, I've had a couple experiences. I am not. I don't have the abilities, or I'm not in tune to the abilities, um, to be able to see or hear the spirit. But I have had experiences. I have seen things fly off shelves. I have seen open cabinets, doors open and close. Um, but my son really got me. And not only that, my mother, her this her mother who had passed away came back to her and told her everything about me, and everything that she told her about me so far has come true.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, do you have anything that you can recall that relates to the story?
Nope, because I haven't had anything whisper at me. I have not. Like I said, I can't hear them talk to me, so not related to the story.
James, have you yourself had any kind of experiences like that?
I have audio experiences once in a while. In the house I'm in, and this house was built in the early 1920s and was my parents' first. And we have one bedroom we call the cave, and a lot of people won't sleep in that room because they've seen entities, or whatever you want to call it there.
So, in other
But
words, you
for
have taste.
myself,
Well,
for myself, I've just had audio experiences where I'll be in my room in bed, and all of a sudden I'll hear my dad talking to me. I mean, it's like he's right there, just talking to me. And I'll wake up, and it's like, and I'm still hearing it. Yes, I'm awake. I'm sitting up,
yeah, I've had
and
dreams. I've had those dreams
and
where I wake up and I'm still in them.
and I question it. Well, is this just a dream, or am I actually hearing this? Is he actually talking to me? And so that's the closest I personally have come to it, other than seeing other people in my family go through their experiences.
See, I had at the time when my sister passed and that happened. Um, that's when I guess I went through a phase of seeing things, and that was around the same time that I saw my first actual full blown spirit walking down the sidewalk.
Oh
and
wow.
my brother and I were going home. We'd been playing. We used to play. There was some people that lived down past the creek there where we lived, and we'd been down there, and we were going home. Broad daylight too, mind you. It was in the evening, and we were um, just before we got to our where we would turn to go into our yard. We passed my next door neighbor's mother on the sidewalk, and we turned into our yard. I look back, she's not there. Why is she not there? Because she died a couple of weeks before. But she
Oh
looked as
wow.
real. She looked as real as you do. And of course we ran in the house, locked the door, and didn't go outside the rest of the day. But that's beside the point. Uh, but yeah, I mean, all this stuff was going on around this time, and my grandparents raised me, so I'm pretty old school. Um, and of course, she beat it through my head. You didn't see anything. You imagined all that. There's no such things as ghosts. And of course, she was really religious. And there's no such things as ghosts. You just imagined you saw all that. Well, after hearing that for a while, I quit seeing stuff. And I quit hearing stuff, and things kind of quieted down. And stayed that way for several years, and then experiences started popping up again. And I'll relate you this one story, and it's not nothing. Well, yeah, I did visually see something, but I mean, I didn't see a spirit. Um, and this was a few years before I actually got involved in the paranormal stuff. But I had some friends. We lived in a trailer park, and I had some friends that lived in the very last trailer down the line there. We happened to be there one night playing cards. And if anybody plays spades, you know what I'm talking about. But we were there, and my daughter was there, and she had went to use the restroom, and she come back talking about, and she was all white faced and talking about, while I was in there, the shower doors, and they had these glass plexiglass shower doors, right, with the heavy frame and all that. She said the doors started shaking really bad. Well, there's a train that runs behind the trailer park, but at the time, mind you, there was no wind and no train. Well, about probably 30, 45 minutes later, I went to use the restroom. And while I'm standing there, and when you're standing facing the commode there, the shower doors are like right to your left, right beside you. And I just kind of looked over there and said, okay, show me. And them suckers started shaking like they was going to come plumb out of the daggum brackets. Uh,
Oh wow.
Now, how do you put this without offending anybody? Yeah, I was going down the hall with Winky hanging out because I wasn't staying. Just say I was. That was working on the way up the hall. But it did. I mean, I thought they were going to come plumb out of the brackets, and that was, I guess, one of the eye openers, so to speak, that got me back into, because I knew what I saw back when I was 9. Even though they told me I didn't see it and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, it stays with you
I,
forever.
yes, and you never forget something like that.
No, not at all.
But you kind of push it down and put clamps on it. You know what I'm saying? And well, when that happened, it's like, yeah, I know what I saw. I know this stuff is real. And a couple other weird things that had happened over the years. But anyway, that was one of the best ones, I guess, is that one, because right on cue when I said that, then sucker started just, I'm like, oh, gotta go.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I guess one other little story I can give, and not really sure what to make of it, but I was a sound technician for rock and roll bands for most of my life. And there was one certain room that I would go to and play in that the sound would just mess up for no reason at all. Could not find out any electrical reason, any scientific reason at all, and but whenever I got in that room, the sound would just mess up. And I used to call it the ghost in the machine. And that's the way I would describe it to the band: is don't go on stage, don't go up there yet. Like, there's a ghost in the machine. I got to get this worked out, and it was straightened out. But just in that one room, so there was something going on there. I swear, and I don't know.
Well, now we lived in a two-story house, and that was the weird part about when my sister passed, and I was hearing that. Um, she stayed in a bassinet, which was in the dining room, or what was supposed to be the dining room, and she was never upstairs, never. But when I would hear her crying, it sounded like it was coming from upstairs.
Hmm.
And I slept in a bed that the way the house was designed, when you come in the front door, you had a hallway that came down and then it turned to the right, and there was a door that went out on the wraparound porch on the back, on the side. And right there where that uh, door to the wraparound porch is where my bed was. So that's where I slept. And the stairway door was right to my left right there. And that's where I would hear it coming, like it was coming from right above me upstairs.
Wow.
And I never understood that part of it. But
That's interesting.
so, I mean, when you think about this story, though,
I think of Sixth Sense, the movie.
pardon?
When I think about the story that you told, it reminds me of the movie Sixth Sense.
Yeah. Only
That's what it reminds me of.
instead of seeing dead people, he was hearing dead people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When it was calling him into the room, you know, that's what it wants. It wants you to follow it and obey it.
Okay, you're garbling up there.
Yeah, that's the interesting point of that story is the invitation,
Yeah.
the bet.
Yeah.
It's like cross the line. Come on, I dare you. And so what was the objective of that?
Well,
And that's what makes me wonder.
That's a great
obviously,
question.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I said that was a great question.
Yeah, he must have stopped going to the top of the stairs though, because if the bet was his life, if he continued to do it, what would have happened?
True.
Okay.
Okay, so was it a safety thing for him not to run up the stairs and possibly fall down, or was it a challenge? You know, yeah, keep running up the stairs and see what happens.
Right. Was it malicious or was it supposed to be like a warning? Well,
Yeah.
no, I don't think it would be a warning, because why would he say, "I bet your life you can't make it to the top of the stairs"? That if he was trying to warn him, he would have said something like, "Well, you don't need to run up the stairs."
Yeah, so that seems malicious to me.
Right.
Yeah.
And the
So
whole
then you
thing.
wonder once again what was the objective of that? Was that to get him to cross over to the evil side of some sort, or
It could be an attachment.
Right, but also, um, in a lot of experiences, you will have demonic entities that will present themselves as a child to try to get at a weak link, somebody that loves children. See, okay,
It doesn't necessarily have to be a demon. It could be an evil spirit just wanting to cause mischief.
yeah, it's true. The whole thing.
here's a question. Go ahead.
Well, the whole thing
I'm
with
thinking
that
out
is
loud.
they will start out presenting themselves as a child, and then they will eventually, once they gain enough strength with you, they're going to show you who they are.
Correct.
So same pretty much with this guy or this thing. It's starting out nice with the bet you a penny thing, and then poof, it shows its true color. I bet your life you can't get up here.
Yeah,
So,
it wants to hurt. It wants to cause harm.
Well, and what about like let's just say if the kid didn't make it to the top of the stairs, and this thing had told him, "I bet you your life," and he stops halfway up, he didn't make it. So does he lose the bet? What's going to happen?
True.
So either he must have made it to the top of the stairs and you know won the wager, or he didn't go up there. One of the two. I don't know, but
And what was the I'll bet your life? You know, it was it, and this gets to a whole different level.
Yeah, but being
But
5 or 6, I mean, what could you really know at that age? You know what I mean? I mean, you can't see it. All you can do is hear it.
yeah, your
But
sound
that's a
is
young age. They
your
don't know
sound
any
is
better.
your sound is kind of off there, Christina.
Okay. Well, can you hear me now?
There you go.
Okay. Well, I'm saying
that's better.
at a young age, 5 or 6 years old, what do they really know? You know what I mean? I mean, you can't see it. All you can do is hear it. But they're so young and so like, you know what I mean? What am I trying to say?
I think I kind of see where you're going.
You know, he doesn't know any better. You know, so
Exactly.
why wouldn't he go all the way up the stairs? Because he's afraid of, bet your life.
Okay, you're still garbling. I don't know what's going on with your audio over there.
I understand where you're coming from, though, Christina. Um, it's the naive that spirits are going to be able to control or take over. So
True.
the bottom line question is, what do you mean by I bet your life? Does that mean
Exactly.
your physical life, or your spiritual life,
Right.
or where is that really going? So that raises some questions.
That's a very interesting way to look at that. You know, I mean, is he saying I bet you your life? Does he mean your spirit, your soul?
Yeah, your direction, the path you're going to take in your life. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you could look at that. So, what was really meant there?
Yeah, but what really
That's
happened?
I'm curious about that. It would be interesting. I
You know,
mean,
when he gets to the top of the stairs.
I don't know the life story after that happened. You know how this person turned out, and how their life turned out. But if he made it to the top of the stairs or didn't make it to the top of the stairs, how did his life turn out?
Well, he says that it eventually stopped. Um, Probably as he got a little older, you know, he didn't pay attention to the voice anymore. I guess that's what I'm getting.
I think
Or
he had a better chance not going up the stairs than he
yeah,
did
yeah,
going up the stairs.
right. Because if he had continued to go up the stairs, he
Something
would
bad
have
would have happened.
he would have been where the thing is, and you know,
Anything could happen.
But
yeah,
that raises another question though too. What if he said, "Okay, I'm not going to let you take me over. I'm going to go up these stairs."
yeah. But we're
True.
talking
And
about a 5-year-old here.
Yeah,
He's not going to think
yeah,
like that. You know,
exactly.
he,
yeah, that's
he
true.
he's not going to be thinking, you know, in that kind of capacity.
Correct.
That's
So
true.
I'm assuming that he either did not go back up there, or you know, he made it up there and he's like, you know, I win, or whatever, and then he just lets it go. But over time, I guess he said that it didn't happen anymore. He didn't hear the voices anymore. So I'm assuming that he was still going up them stairs
Yeah,
because otherwise he wouldn't have known that the voice stopped.
correct. That's a good point.
Good
So
point. Yep.
what happened here? You know, did the thing just say, oh well, you know, I'm not getting anywhere with this kid. I'm just going to quit, or uh, maybe it moved on to somebody else, or you know. Now I believe it. This is just me, but I believe spirits can travel. I don't think, you know, just because you're earthbound that you have to stay in a specific area. Like a lot of people believe, you know, well they're trapped there because that's where they died or what have you. And who
No,
knows?
I
Maybe it
agree with
went
that.
somewhere else and found a new victim. You know.
Because he wasn't listening to him.
Exactly.
Yeah, because if you weren't listening to him, you just go somewhere else.
Well, it's like, and I think it's like that with you know, when you're on an investigation, you may run across a dark entity or something, you know, and they feed off the fear.
Correct.
So if you know, if you don't show them any fear, they're like, oh well, you know, I'm wasting my time here. I'm gonna go pick on somebody, you know, I can get to.
Correct. That is right.
So you know, I mean, there's lots of ways of looking at what happened. You know, it might be just, you know, this kid is like, in his mind it was a game, right? Well, the game, I guess, got to be when he thought about it later, you know, like, man, this wasn't a game, this was real, you know. But he didn't let it win, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, uh,
The point of defeat. Uh, you know,
well,
well, why continue working on this person if I can't get anywhere? So I'll find somebody else.
exactly. That was my point. You know, it moved
Yeah.
on to somebody I guess it could have more control over.
That's why I don't believe it was a demon versus just a spirit that wanted to cause mischief.
But now you got to bring in the brother
He was hearing it too.
because he's like, you know, was it making bets with you? So that means he had experienced it himself.
And that's interesting. And then you would have to go back into history as to who possibly is that spirit, and why would that spirit be focusing on these two brothers?
Right. Well, and 2 years difference. If he was 5, his brother would have been about 7.
Okay.
That's where it would be interesting to know the family history, this sort of thing.
But now he
Um,
also brought up that he didn't think the house was haunted. You know, if you got voices whispering to you, I bet you your life. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's haunted. But now, was it a spirit that he said the house was built in the 70s? Was it a spirit that died there, or was it a spirit that came there?
Exactly. It could be
well,
anything.
well, here's an interesting thing, and I'm going to throw in just a little bit of a newer story of mine. I lived in North Carolina the last 2 years. I just moved back to Michigan. And the house I lived in there, when I got there, my stepdaughter, Debbie, told me, there's a spirit in this house. You will hear music, you will hear talking, and things will get moved around outdoors. And she says, I'm pretty sure it's a past Indian spirit that this house was built possibly on a burial ground or something like that. And I was like, okay, fine. Well, after living there for a while, yep, I heard the music. I heard people talking. And I'd get up and everybody in the house was asleep, but I heard people talking. And there would be things that we put in the front yard, for example, and apparently that spirit didn't like it in the front yard because I'd get up in the morning and they were in the backyard. Now we had a, a Doberman fenced in the backyard, so nobody's going to get back there, no human. But yet these things from the front yard, we'd wake up in the morning and they were in the backyard.
Wow.
So that was my most recent experience with that type of thing.
Another thing, back when my sister, before she passed, you know, I told you she had a twin, right? And she was in a baby bed, which was in the bedroom right off of that dining room area where the bassinet stayed. And she was about 3, and she was talking a little bit, you know. But the weird coincidence with this was that one day we were like on the front porch, and this is at the front of the house. She's at nearly the back of the house, right? And my brother was asking if he could have $1. We're on the front porch now, mind you, and he's asking my mom if he could have $1. And he would have been 11. I was around 9. He would have been 11. Um, she had went back in there to check on them, and the twin that's in the baby bed asked if she could have $1. Now, how she could have heard that, all that far. So you just got to wonder, was she in tune?
Oh, absolutely.
But that was really weird.
If you're not in tune, you're not going to see them.
Right. I mean, that was just a really weird coincidence that happened at that time and everything. So you got, the things going on like that. You got the things going on like my brother and I seeing the spirit and all this. All this stuff was going on at the same time. And I wonder what brought all that into play. You know what I'm saying? What would at that particular time would have brought all this stuff into play?
Here's a question I have for you then. Is there something or someone in your life that was important to you that you lost in that time period to where they were trying to make contact with you? As you think back?
No, not really, no. Like I said, my little sister passed, of course, shortly after that. It wasn't long after that.
But maybe a close friend or relative or somebody just before that maybe you're not even aware of.
Not that I'm aware of. That's what I'm saying. Can't think of anything major that happened during that time period that would bring about all this kind of stuff.
Did you move into a different location, a different house at that time?
Same house.
Okay.
And this house was built at the time when we lived there. It was like about 50 years old, I think.
So pretty new. I mean, for a house, that's fairly new.
Yeah, well, I guess you can.
I mean,
and of course,
if you're looking at the history of a house,
you got to think this was in around 65, maybe.
Okay, so the house was probably built in the 20s, something like that.
And as far as I know, there wasn't any deaths in the house. I mean, as far as I know, I never heard of any. Could there have been? Possibly. When you're trying to sell somebody, and another thing that I thought was really weird about this is my grandfather bought this house for $7,000.
Imagine that today.
And even then, 7,000 wouldn't touch a place like that.
Okay.
I wouldn't think.
No.
I mean, I would think at least you're looking at at least around 20 grand at the lowest level. $7,000 he bought this house. And upstairs, and there was only one room in there that he actually decorated for my brother to stay in upstairs, my older brother. And we were up there one day throwing a basketball back and forth, and it went over my head, went right through the wall. And so we tore out the wallpaper there, and there was like a square opening, about 2 foot square opening. And you could go into the framework of the house, and it went in like around the corner, and back in there was a how it got in there, I have no clue, unless it was built in there on purpose. But there was like a little shelf back there, and that's where the guy that used to live there would hide his whiskey because his wife didn't want him drinking. And he would hide his whiskey bottles in that shelf in the framework of the house up there off of that room. And
yeah, of course, actually, that makes sense because that was around the time of Prohibition.
Right.
There are houses that are built around the same time the house I'm in right now were built, and we're in a port on the Great Lakes, on Lake Michigan, and a lot of the houses here, as they're remodeling them these days, they're finding bottles of whiskey, this and that, in the walls
Yeah,
as
because
they
they
go
hid them
down.
everywhere.
Yeah, they had to hide it. So that might be part of the reason of that prohibition.
Well, you either hid the stuff or you went to a speakeasy and you run a risk of getting caught there. So you would make places to hide your stuff in your house. That way you would have it right there. You didn't have to go outside where anybody could see you. So yeah, that all would fit.
And
What do you think, Christina?
go ahead. Didn't
Did
mean
you
to
ever
interrupt.
did you ever deal with places like this, or hidden areas, or
There's always hidden areas and places. I do a lot of investigations, and you find a lot of hidden areas actually. Um, but any place, it doesn't matter if it's new, old, or whatnot, can be haunted.
Okay, I've got people asking where this house was. I grew up in Troy, Tennessee. Actually, it was the first town established in Obion County in Tennessee. But the weird part about that street is Peabody Street, and there was 3 houses on this street, and they were all identical. One was at each end, and ours was right in the middle. And they were all identical. Of course, there was a little bit newer houses in between there. And so I don't know at the time period. Um, I'm trying to think of, and why I can't think of it, I don't know. He fought in Texas at the Alamo. Shoot.
If I may ask, I just geographically, where is Troy located as compared to like Nashville or Knoxville?
Okay,
or
I'm about probably 2.5 to 3 hours from Nashville, and Troy is probably about 45 minutes from where I am now. So
you're west of Nashville?
west, yes.
Okay.
It's probably, I would say, if you know anything about Tennessee, if you know where Jackson, Tennessee is, I'm about an hour from Jackson now,
Okay.
and I'm about probably 35 to 45 minutes from Troy.
I have a sister in Cumberland City, so that's kind of in the same area, I think, where you're at.
Now, we didn't have, Troy was a really, I guess, unique place. We didn't have, they had beer stores, but they were like out on the interstate, like going toward Union City, which was the bigger, and there's a whole story tied into Union City and Troy, actually. Troy used to be, like I said, it was the first township established in Obion County. The courthouse was in Troy. It was a wood structure. It burned. They rebuilt it. Something happened. They rebuilt a block one or brick one or whatever. And Union City wanted to have the courthouse. They wanted to be the seat of Obion County. So they actually came to the courthouse, stole the records, and had them in a wagon and was carrying them back to Union City. And this is how gullible people are. They were carrying them back to Union City, and they got stuck because it had been heavy rain, and they had to cross this creek or something that was where the roadway was. They got stuck, and people from Troy helped get them out of the dadgum creek so that they could carry the records to Union City and establish the county seat. So yeah, there's stories about Troy I can tell you things. In the original courthouse in Troy during the Civil War, they actually hid horses in the basement of the courthouse.
No kidding.
Yeah. But yeah, they did that, and they helped them get the wagon out, and they carried the records up to Union City and established the county seat. That's why Union City, Tennessee, now has the courthouse, and they're the county seat of Obion County. But The little humorous story there.
I actually am a horseman, so I can kind of see the hiding the horses like in the house or in
Yeah.
our basement with that, because I've actually put them in my garage on a cold winter day up here in Michigan before, because the garage was heated and the barn wasn't. So I brought the horses into the garage. So so
The,
just that kind of vision thing of putting them in the courthouse basement. Was like, yeah, I can see that.
you know, I mean, I grew up in a strange little town. What can I say? Uh, but you know, like I said, there was three houses on this street, and why they were set where they were, you know, the one at each end and the one right in the middle. And on the other side, there was like only when I was little, there was only two houses on the other side of the road. No, there was three houses. One of them got accidentally burnt down by some kids smoking in there, and there was newspapers or something on the floor, and they caught it on fire and it burnt down. That was almost right across from me, but
Just thinking logically and building and planning a city or whatever, I mean, there were probably three foundation houses built by the same builder.
yeah, I mean,
And we go by this plan, and they were probably large lots then, and then they made the plots smaller
you
for
know it was the
houses in
same
between.
architect, right? Because they were all identical.
Yeah, that's
And you know, like I said, the way they were established, it's weird because why would they put one on each end of this road and one right in the middle? It's almost kind of like, oh, how would you say, the ruling people, so to speak. You know, they covered each end of the area and they covered the middle.
well. It
Like
might be interesting to look back at the history there and see what the original plot size was. Because that there may have just been three
That's not a
plots
bad idea.
on that road at the time, and then it got divided later on.
right, yeah, right.
That makes sense.
You know what? I'm going to step out for just a second here because I see both of you smoking and it's driving me crazy, and I have to go outside and have a cigarette. So
Okay,
I'll be right back. Excuse me for a little bit here, okay?
that's fine.
Thank you.
Anyway, that like I said, I always thought that was weird why they set it up like that. But and I wonder
Yeah.
if each one of them had in the upstairs where the framework was, if each one of them had a hidden room, you know, a hidden opening.
Very possible.
You know, I mean, why the one and not the others? But Davy Crockett, dang it, I knew I'd remember. Davy Crockett actually helped establish the town of Troy.
Oh wow.
He was in the actual meeting when they established the town of Troy. Yeah, and I don't know why I could not. I could remember he fought at the Alamo, but I could not remember. And I was thinking David, but I couldn't think of the last name. But yeah, that's another interesting little tidbit about my little old place I grew up.
There you go.
But anyways, we've gotten way off the beaten path, but all interesting stuff. Um, that house, I just wonder because, like I said, my sister bringing that up about the dollar and not being, there's no way she could have heard us talking out there.
Yeah.
You know, and all the other stuff that went on, you kind of just have to wonder if something about that house allowed for this kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there could be many reasons to why things were happening in that house.
Or even, you know, the area around that house. That's what I'm saying, because
Yeah.
that's where I saw the spirit at, was right next to the house.
Yep.
And I knew who it was, and that's the trippy thing about seeing something like that is I knew who it was.
Mhm.
And she was wearing the same exact sundress that she was wearing before she passed away that I remember seeing her in.
That's wild.
So, you know, you walk past her and you're like, hey, you know, you're waving, you're not thinking nothing about it. You turn in the yard, you look back, there's nobody there, and you're like, holy shit, I just saw a ghost. You know? That's when you make tracks, buddy. You lock your door. You're like, I ain't going out there.
It can happen to anyone.
I'm sorry.
It can happen to anyone.
Yeah, yeah. You're still garbling. You are you?
Am I real?
You sounded better just then.
Yeah. Am I better now?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Good deal.
Yeah. Stop walking around a little bit.
Oh, okay. You got to stop doing that. You garbling.
Okay.
But yeah, that's you have to wonder if there was like something about that general area. Maybe something uh happened there before.
Location-wise, property-wise, absolutely. It could
Yeah,
happen on that property for years.
before those houses were ever even built.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
And of course you got to think when that township was established. Like I said, that was back when Davy Crockett was around.
Yeah.
Who
Yep.
knows what kind of stuff went on in that area.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
the funny thing about burials is back then burials were just you didn't have like a cemetery that you just buried a body in.
I
You
just
know,
dug a hole.
you died on the side of the road, you dug a hole, covered them up, put some rocks on it.
Yep. Unmarked graves are
Also,
everywhere.
so anything could have happened in that area.
Oh
Anybody could
yeah.
be buried in that area. Anybody could have been buried under that house.
Absolutely. Yep.
Nobody would have known.
No.
Because by that time, I'm sure that any markers and stuff like that would have all probably been, you know, gone.
Roger,
You could have, yeah.
excuse me, Roger and Christina, I want to thank you both for inviting me in this conversation. I've really enjoyed it. I have another appointment at 8 o'clock for Skype that I need to get to. But
Okay.
I look forward to talking to you in the future. And
It was
thank
nice
you.
meeting you.
Bye-bye.
Awesome, James. Thanks for coming.
Bye.
Thank you. Catch you later.
All right, bye
Bye.
bye now. James is cool. I like him.
Yeah.
But like I said, anything, there could have been a family massacre there for all we know. It could have been right where that house was or
Oh,
in that
absolutely.
general area, right? Because that's where stuff was going on around, just like in that particular area.
Yep.
Now, do you remember when we were talking about when we did the show a while back? We were talking about trying to find where the hanging tree actually was in Salem there.
Yeah. They actually figured it out, to be honest with you.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, because the Walgreens on Boston Street the tree would have been in the North River, right in that area. So they know that that's the area where the whole thing happened.
Right, and if the guy actually did come up in a boat to get his mother's body and all that stuff, he would have had to been close to water. It would have had to been close to a river or something.
Yeah, and it is. Walgreens is right there next to the North River. So they
Okay.
think that the hanging tree is right on the North River.
Right, because if I was going to go there and check that, I would want to know that I was in the actual place.
Yeah, I
But
mean, Gallows Hill today is not Gallows Hill. It's not. I mean, it's close to the area, but it's not. It's not exact location.
now we keep getting, like I said, we're getting away from the story, which that's fine. It's all interesting. Uh, Creepy stuff like hearing voices,
Yes.
and I can't say at that age I'd probably been even more creeped out if I actually saw something
It
and
is more
heard it.
creepier when you're a kid. Like I said, my son. I went through some things with my son, and the things he used to tell me used to blow my mind. And when you hear, it's scary for a little kid. It really, really is, and it even scares you as an adult, knowing what your child's going through and you can't help them.
Okay, you're still garbling. You're gonna have to get that thing closer to you or something there.
Okay. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'm just saying. I'm letting you know because But anyway, seeing stuff like that at 9, him hearing voices at 5, if he would have actually seen a figure, or a translucent figure, or
He used to see inanimate objects move. He used to see people in the middle of the street. He would see things in my house and tell me that things are here. He used to hear things, and it really is scary. It is, especially for a young child.
Yeah. Now I'm going to relate another little story, and everything that I talk about happened in Troy, of course, but when I was young, but me and my two younger brothers and a couple of friends, there used to be an old back road that everybody called Thunder Road, and it's where all the older teenagers went to party and hang out at.
Okay.
But if you go to the far end of it, there was no factory there. In fact, I actually worked there. It's the first job I ever had.
Okay.
And I was 13 when I went to work there. But anyway, we went out there, and at the end of the road at the factory, they had a bunch of cardboard boxes outside. And one of them looked just like a coffin. So we take the box, and we go back about 3/4, halfway back down the road, and we're playing around with this box. And we're taking turns getting in the box and acting like we're a vampire or something. We'd raise the lid up, we'd raise it, and all that stuff. And,
scared you, didn't it?
Yeah. But anyway, on both sides of this road, there was like woods everywhere, except for the right side of the road right there where we were. There was a little open field that went back about, I'm going to say, 25 yards maybe by, it was almost kind of like a square. It was like about 25 by 30, something like that. And I don't even remember who was in the box at the time, because I just happened to glance out across that field, and towards the back of this field, there's this guy standing there. But not from our time period.
Okay.
You could tell by his clothes that he was like maybe from the 30s or 20s or something.
Isn't that awesome? Just to
the
see
whole,
that?
yeah, but the whole weird thing is, have you ever watched the videos where people are talking about the government and UFOs and stuff, and they blot out their face because they don't want to be seen?
That's what it looks like, right?
That's what his face looked like, just a blotch.
If you listen to a lot of people, they'll tell you the same thing, that when they see ghosts, they can't see their face.
But I see this thing, right, and I'm like poking everybody. You see that? You see that? And they're like, yeah. And we took off running. I mean, we left the box, of course. We all took off, and we went all the way back. You had to cross the interstate thing there, the 4-lane.
Yeah.
And
Highway.
You go up so far, and there was the old laundromat where my grandmother, I've helped her tote many a basket of clothes down there to wash. But right beside the laundromat, there was an old house that set up on a little hill, and there was like an alley that went there, and it went toward my house. So we all get there, and we turn down this gravel road, this alley, and just as we passed the back of that laundromat, I see this guy again. He's standing at the far end, and he's peeping around the corner of the building at us, the back of the building. So, by that time we had stopped running, and we were just walking, and I saw that, and I'm like, okay, guys, time to run. So we take off again. And it's 2 blocks and a half maybe to where my house was from there. So we ran all the way to the top of the hill, the road that I lived on. And by that time we aren't seeing anything, so we finally stopped, and we're like, and we go down the little hill. Okay, there's the one big house I told you about on the corner, right?
Yeah.
Go down the hill, and there's 2 more houses before you get to my house. Okay, the first one you come to, all right, baby, not right now. The first one you come to, they had like an old wooden garage, kind of rickety looking garage that sat right behind their house. And there was like, the garage is here, and then it's just a real slim little thing in there. Then there's a hill like this, and it goes up. And when we got there, I'll be damned if he wasn't peeping out from behind that garage at me again.
Wow.
So
That's because they're attracted to you because they know you can see them.
I don't know, but 2 houses down, we got to my house, and this is again broad daylight.
Yep.
We all go in there, shut the door, and nobody wanted to go home. I had all these kids that lived across town didn't want to go home, you know.
Yeah.
And now I look at it and laugh because it's like, you know, their moms be calling, "Where's my son?" You know, he's over here. He won't leave. But I mean, that's just, you know, like weird things like that would happen. Um, Another story. Halloween night. Um, it was me and a friend of mine. He's dead now, bless his heart. He killed himself. Sad deal, but anyway, um, it was Halloween night. He came home with me from school. Well, he lived about 4 miles out in the country, and he came home from school. I mean, we was gonna hang out, you know, and do dirty Halloween pranks, right? You know, soak people's windows and throw toilet paper and all this kind of stuff. But we had plans. But he said, "Well, I've got to go home and do some stuff for my mom, and then we'll come back to town." I'm like, "Okay." So to get to his house, you can take the highway. You go uptown, take the highway out. We took right across from my house. If you cut through the yards, you cross the old 51 highway, and then you went up a steep hill. And if you stayed on that, you hit another road that went out, you know, where you could go out and cut through to get over there. And on this road, there's a big cemetery. I'm talking a big cemetery. It was probably, oh shoot, I don't know. Uh, I'm sure it was probably 100 yards in one direction. That is more than that. But anyway, on the edge of the road right there, there was 3 of those, and you know what the old marble encasements they would put in the ground and lower the coffins in, and had the big cast iron lids on them.
Yep.
3 of them sitting there,
Wow.
side by side. 2 of them didn't have lids on them. 1 did. So curiosity killed the cat, right? We wanted to see if there was bones in this thing because it had a lid on it, right? So we try to shove this lid off, and we can't do it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we go on. We get to his house. We do what we got to do. We come back the same exact way. When we get back to this cemetery, the lid is off this thing, leaning up against the side.
Isn't that wild?
Okay.
What was in it?
Nothing but leaves. But anyway, it's just a point, you know, it was off.
Yeah.
And of course, we looked in there. Is there bones in here? No, there wasn't no bones in there. And I happened to look out across the cemetery, and I noticed something really weird. So I kind of walk a little further into the cemetery, and it looked like God had took a big, huge bowling ball and just bowled right down the center of the cemetery, a 25-foot wide swatch across. Every tombstone was all down facing, let's see what direction that would be, west. Every tombstone for about a 25-foot wide swatch across here, all the way down, was down.
Huh. That's interesting.
But the key here is, if it would have been older kids coming out there just, you know, doing havoc, you know, kicking them over, what have you, they would all been cocked this way and that way, but they weren't. They were all in a perfect straight line.
Wow. It's amazing.
And I've never figured that out.
Yeah, you probably never will.
We didn't hang around long after that.
I know. Yeah.
But I mean, just stuff like that, you know, that I experienced.
To me, those are signs. Those are signs to me that you're in the right place at the right time. Everything happens for a reason. You are meant to see that. That's what that means to me.
Well, and you know, I agree with you, except I would think that if this was supposed to be telling me something, that they would give me some kind of clue what the heck it meant.
Yeah,
but,
no, I understand that. But messages you have to decipher.
there was no clue. And of course, at that age, I think when that happened, I think I was 11 maybe at that time.
Yeah.
And you don't understand, okay? You don't take things as, well, this is an omen, or this is um, telling you something.
Yeah. No. Exactly. Yeah. No, I
So unless a
understand
little
that.
voice whispers in my ear and says these tombstones are knocked down like this for a reason, this is what it is, I ain't gonna have a
Yeah. You
clue.
don't.
I'm just gonna freak
Yeah.
out and run like hell. Okay, uh,
Yep. Exactly.
th- it's weird stuff like that, and like I said, one of the reasons I picked that story was because I related to it with what went on with me, but also because when you're at that age and everything, you don't understand.
No.
You know,
What's going on? Yeah.
now I didn't have voices whispering in my ear. Thank goodness. I probably would have popped. But the other stuff that happened is crazy enough. But I couldn't imagine being 5 years old and sitting at the top of the stairs carrying on a conversation with a voice of something I couldn't see.
Yeah.
That
It
that
happens.
boy,
It happens more than you realize.
and I wish he would have elaborated more on what they were conversing about before. And he brought up the bets thing. Okay, like that was a lot of what they talked about, I guess. Um,
No, I,
but saying, that I sat at the top of the stairs and we had conversations, or I carried on a conversation with this voice, and surely there was more they talked about than just the betting thing. But I would really like to know what that was.
yes.
I, have,
No,
I may have I may have to look this person up and see if I can get a little more in depth of
if you can.
what went on. But like I said, if I would have, if it would have been me and it was just a voice and everything, I probably wouldn't have thought, because like I said, kids' imaginations are wide open. So I probably
Exactly.
wouldn't have thought that much about it. But if I'd actually seen what was talking to me, you know, um, it would probably have been time to change the tidy whities. But you know what I'm saying? Yeah, there'd probably been a big load in there. Uh, wow, I mean, and that was another reason that I chose this one, was because
It's an
even though
interesting book.
even though you didn't see a spirit, it's the creepiness of it. I mean, you got this voice talking. Now I have one. Actually have one disembodied voice that I captured on my recorder that happened at my daughter's house one time. That came right out of the air, a voice, just you know, and so I'm thinking, well, I heard this voice and it came right out of the air. So yeah, it's very possible that this happened.
Oh, absolutely. Very
Um,
possible. That's what makes it intelligent. You don't need to have that frequency where you can only hear it on the recorder. You're hearing it with your own ears.
yeah, and my recorder captured it. Actually, it's on my Facebook page, um, and it sounded like the best way to describe it's like a little old lady's voice.
Oh,
And I had said, we were coming toward the house, and I said, well, you guys can come up to the house with us, but you can't stay. You got to go back, right? And we get about halfway to the house. There's a tree right there, and it just came right out of the air and said, "I ain't staying."
wow.
I'm like, he and my son-in-law was, it was me and him, and he goes, "Did you say that?" I said, "Do I sound like that?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, I played that recorder back, and there it was. Sure, yeah,
I'll
we
have to
did
look
hear
for that.
that.
I'll have to go on your Facebook. I want to check that out.
I'm sorry, say again.
So I want to go on your Facebook. I want to check that out.
Okay, look on Half Past Dead Paranormal Investigations. There's several EVPs on there. Um, in fact, one from Waverly Hills in there, that where I was in the morgue, and I was in the little deep freeze box there,
Nice. That's
and
awesome.
I had the recorder running, and I said, "Is there anybody in here with me?" and I had to amplify it a little bit because it was really low. But when I amplified it and everything, sure enough, there was a voice that said, "I'm with you."
Wow. Isn't that amazing? It's amazing.
Yeah. And I got one on the fifth floor of the Waverly Hills where the woman supposedly hung herself, the nurse.
Yeah.
And I figured it was going to be her because I asked, the guy that I was with, we was talking about, this is where the nurse hung herself. And I said, are you here with us, And the actual EVP that I got was from, it had to have been a patient, an older woman. And it said, help me walk.
Oh, wow.
And if you know about what went on in Waverly Hills, you know that
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
they would remove ribs and all kind of stuff, and that destabilizes your skeleton.
Yep.
So that verified, the EVP helped me walk because they probably had survived the surgery and was unstable.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really weird. But anyway, it's like I said, the voices that you can hear but you can't see anything.
Yeah.
Those will catch you by surprise more than anything. If you see an apparition and it speaks to you, you're not going to think that much about it. But if you got something just coming out of the air like that,
Yeah.
and when it does it, when you least expect it,
Yeah.
it's like, wow. But anyway, it was all interesting, and it reminds me of the voice. He's hearing a voice. Number one, if I hear a voice that doesn't belong to anything I can see that's saying, well, I'll bet you a penny you can't do this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be like, make it $100, we'll talk about it. But, and then when it says, I bet you your life, I'm gonna be like, oh no, buddy, we ain't going there. That's creepy. That is creepy. And then to find out that, like, years later, to find out that your brother actually experienced the same thing and knew exactly what you were going to say before you said it.
Yeah, that exactly. For real, that's confirmation right there that you're not crazy.
Yeah, so he's got his validation right there that he actually did experience what he did.
Yeah.
And to find out that he wasn't the only one. Now, that's where I would have been all in this conversation. Like, well, what did it say to you? Did it just bet you your life? What, did you talk? What did it say? I wanted to know everything. How long did you go through this? How long did this happen?
Yeah, exactly.
At what time did you quit running up the stairs? I had a experience in my adult life, and I think it was the first actual experience where I saw a vision, I guess.
Oh, yeah. Like a premonition or just a vision?
It was a vision. I don't know if it meant anything or what. We lived in an old house that it's not there anymore. But I had gotten up, and it was around 3 o'clock in the morning, and I had gotten up to go to the restroom. And you know how you're kind of half asleep, half awake, when you do this. And I walked into the bathroom, turned on the light, and I closed my eyes for a second because, my eyes are burning and there's sleep in depth and all this. And when I closed my eyes, I started seeing a vision of like traveling down the road, and to my right is like desert, and you see all these rock formations.
Okay.
And the only thing that I can find anywhere close to it's in Arizona.
Okay.
Like maybe the mountains were supposedly the gold mine. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Lost Dutchman mine. Yeah. Okay. But I was seeing like, here's your desert, and you got and this is how realistic it was. You got your actual little cactuses sprouting up out there, and you got your other little plant life that grows in that type of area, which is really sparse, right? But I could see that the greenery of it, everything. and the
Okay.
rock formations, and all that. And it seemed like it went on forever, but it couldn't have been very long. But okay, baby, quit. No, 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 not now. my
I
dog,
know my battery's gonna die as well.
my dog's trying to get up here.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that it went on for a little bit, and it was like living in a movie. Going down the road, you're in a car or something. You're seeing all this out your window. That was, I think, the first experience that I had actual of being semi awake,
Yeah.
but yet experiencing, something like. And I don't know what it meant. Still don't know what it meant. The only thing that I could think of is maybe the person that because I found out from my landlord at the time that her daddy owned that house and he died in it.
Oh, okay.
And I'm thinking
So you probably saw a vision of his life.
maybe this was something that he experienced and I was seeing it through his eyes.
Exactly. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But yeah,
But
that was the first experience I had that I can remember.
Roger, my battery is gonna die. But I do gotta get going. But I do want to thank you very much for having me on.
Well, you're very welcome. It was very interesting. I'm glad James came in and talked with us.
Absolutely.
And I told you we were going to have a good time.
Oh yeah,
I
absolutely.
love it. I love talking
I'd
about
love
this
to do
stuff.
it again. I'd love to do it again sometime.
Well, we will do that. And you can feel free to come on anytime. It don't matter. Like I said, William will probably be co-hosting. But, I mean, if
That's
you want to
fine.
come on and join in, that's fine.
I would love to.
More the merrier. I want to thank
Well, thank
everybody, Christina, especially you.
Thank you.
Everybody in the chat room that I didn't see and talk to over there. We will be back Friday night. We have another story, and hopefully William will be here for that. But anyways, been fun. Hope you enjoyed the story and the conversation. We'll see y'all Friday. Night, night, everybody.
All right.